Hey, welcome to race 4 of the Cycling Canada Wednesday night race series. Appreciate you riding along, and we've got an absolute belter for you today, which is why I've started the video a little bit earlier than usual because there's a whole lot that happens in the beginning of this race. In fact, by about 9 kilometers in, much of the race has been decided. So, what are we riding here? We're riding London. I think it's called Greater London Flat. It's fairly flat, but there are a couple real sneaky rises. And I'm riding in Group B. And you will see in this starting pen, we merge with Group A essentially immediately. In the other pens, there's been a little bit of a lead in to when we all came together. And then this one, the A group and the B group are right in the mix right away, which means we are absolutely all out bananas hard from the beginning. I did my one of my better 5 minutes here. I did, what was it, 4.7 watts per kilogram for 5 minutes at the opening of this race. So you can see, just cruising along frequently at like 400 watts. So, why do such a thing to myself when this is a 54-kilometer race? Because it's flat. And that means that the make or break is really going to be in the open. And then things are going to sit quite a bit. So here I am actually slightly off the front group, but I also know everyone's going to be rushing to get on and should pull me back into this front group. That happens a couple times along the way, and so if you're still in the middle of a huge bunch, you don't necessarily have to be the one that sprints the gap. If folks are coming surging by, you just ride their pull. Oh, the other thing I should note at the opening here is my heart rate is not correct. I wish I'd be Lionel Sanders if I was at 112 beats per minute right here. It's I don't know, for some reason my watch heart rate monitor took a while to properly kick in. It will suddenly ratchet up to the real value of 180 beats per minute a few kilometers into this race and works the rest of the ride. So what my thought here was, look, we're with the A's. It's a flat race. I can hang on for a while, and so that's what I might as well do. I might as well just go for glory, see if they can really drag me free, and we'll play it from there. Now, interestingly, if you go and you looked at the Zwift Power results for the B group in this, there is, I think, a really telling story in that 5 minute power because everyone who finished in the pack below me did a noticeably lower 5 minute power, like 4.2, 4.3 sort of thing. Everyone who was in my group or the couple ahead or one rider ahead, they were all in that like 4.7, 4.8, 4.9 for 5 minute power, which basically what happens is uh, whoever went all out at the beginning and hung on as long as they could ended up in one of two packs that were mixed AB packs. And those two packs basically ended up going for B Glory. Uh, if you missed that, then you never came back into the front end of this race. So you can see already in the upper map there, there's already groups splitting off for B here. Um, Actually, interesting point while I'm pointing at the map. Chris Paulette, James Eaton both mentioned they like the really zoomed in map because then you really get a sense of those mini splits that are happening. What size is your pack compared to the little group ahead of you? All those sorts of things. So why on earth do I use a zoom out map when I'm so focused on these kind of tactics? I use the zoomed out map because I entirely depend on the race responding to the map. And so right here, for example, I see that and I'm cued and I know there's a climb coming as soon as we take that right turn. And so because I know these maps really well, and you race enough of them that the same thing tends to happen at the same parts of the same courses. And so, well, yes, zooming in would really help me with understanding the format of the packs. I zoom out because I just really depend on knowing what's coming up in the next minute in the race by what's on the map. So here we are. We're going all out up this climb. We're still this huge amount of A riders. We're still got quite a few B riders hanging on by our fingernails here. I know it's going to stretch out. I just hope that there are enough folks kind of on the back end of this pack that will keep me in as things go forward. And so I do get some good luck here, which is yeah. So of course you're going all out like you make your luck by going up that hill at 500 watts. But it's still never going to be enough against a group of A riders. Especially, there's a lot of A plus riders in these races. Like Matteo Delzin, you might have seen, um, who rides for Rally Cycling, Pro Continental team. You've got somewhere up there Chris Ernst, who's one of the national team members. Just got picked, I believe, for Tokyo Olympics. So, you're never going to be as a B rider in the front of that pack up a hill. But you just got to hope for what I've got going on here, which is enough people coming by and bringing me with them. There's Luke Egowitz saving my bacon and bringing me back into this front group. Thanks, Luke. Shout out to you. Um, so you can see again then, like, look at that mini map, and there's now a million splits that have been happening here. Now, where the real gamble comes in, though, is who's going to be left with you when the inevitable split from A does happen. And that's where I'm taking a big risk, because if there's a giant pack of B that ends up together right behind this, and I get spat out on my own, say 20 kilometers up the road, and I've gone like 125% of FTP the whole time, then that B group is going to catch me in a blink of an eye, and they may blow right by me. And unfortunately, that's what happens to Luke later in this race. I'll talk about that and how the little groups evolve, and how his incredible strong start actually ends up biting him later on in the race. I could see Alex van der Linden in this group. Alex is an incredible triathlete by background, multi race winning triathlete, and started into the Zwift a few years ago, and has just blown his way right up the ranks to the pointy end of the A race. So it's great to see Alex doing incredible riding. Also saw Peter Schindler, so shout out to other triathletes in the crowd. We can put out the big watts for big races. There he is. A Canada representative at the age group duathlon, I believe. And so here's where the going gets rough for me. This carpet here, I swear, is molasses. So Zwift definitely has different ratings for the terrain based on rolling resistance. So you'll know cobblestones are harder. Dirt is much harder. I swear this carpet is very high rolling resistance, because you just feel like you're going nowhere in it. So you can see I'm slowly getting stretched out on the carpet here, and it killed me here, and it killed me later laps as well. Just I don't know if it's in my head, but I swear it's really hard going through this carpet. This must be a nice thick shag carpet. So you can see my heart rate has gotten to be the proper rate there. Um, and so my max is like 192, I suspect right now. And you'll see in this race, I find my way pretty close to that number a couple of times. Um, and I just can't, like, I can't bridge this at this point. We've been going for almost 10 minutes at essentially, oh, whatever, FTP plus a whole watt. So say my FTP is 3.7. We've been going at 4.7 for much of this time. And so this is now where I know I'm done with this group because nothing happens this train. There's going to be no big downhill. If you look behind me, there isn't a huge group that's likely to come surging by and save my bacon. But there are enough riders around me, and if you look on the sidebar, a good amount of those are B riders. And so this is where I'm just hoping a reasonable size group forms up so that I'm not just swept up, in 5 minutes down the line by some giant pack behind us. And so by, nothing but pure fortune, essentially, um, we do form up into this great little pack. And again, so you make your opportunities, and then your opportunities also come to you. So, I went 10 minutes, um, you know, maxed out. Oh, there's Ben Dobby, gets in the group / Don Cherry. Um, and so, big gamble, in this case, big reward. You can see already what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 riders already in the mix from that view. And what happens is we end up scooping up some great additions. And so we have a couple B riders that are spit out. We have some A riders who try really hard to stay in. And so I'm just going to fast forward here. Well, I'll still walk you through it though. And so you can see, like, we're just scooping up rider after rider here. Some we roll right through, which is too bad. I almost wanted to warn them, send them a little message in game and be like, hey, get ready, we're coming. Our group does push hard on some spots, and I'll point those out. Like, you know, as happens in Zwift, you see a hill, you go hard, and our group does that. So it was far from a free ride once we got in here. But so you can see a couple things happen. First is in front of us, there's this other subgroup, and there behind us is this huge group. And so the whole time, I'm really keeping my eye on how are these three packs going to unfold, because these are the B packs. There's A's doing whatever the heck they're doing. We've got some A's in our mix. This group ahead of us has some A's in their mix. There we go, scoop up another rider. Our pack gets up to 19. The pack in front of us, that is, I believe, Shane Lavelle, Luke Egowitz, Chris Paulette, an A rider, and I'm not sure how many, but not many more. Like, there was only a few of them, and you could even just tell looking at the map it wasn't a huge pack. They're a little bit ahead of us, maybe minute 15, a minute ahead, and then behind us, actually they might be a little bit bigger right now, and they might come apart a little bit more because I think we scooped up several more riders at some point. Yeah, right there you can see they're splitting on this rise on the back half. But then the group behind us, they had me pretty worried because they were huge, 30 plus riders in that pack, and they were gaining on us. So, we go hard up this climb here. You can see my heart rate, right up into the 180, 182. But a lot of the time on the flats, we were rolling pretty soft. Like, I saw a lot of like 3.2, 3.3 watts per kilogram. Um, I guess, I mean, it's not anything to laugh at, but uh, it's not 3.7, 3.8, right? It's not a all out do or die effort. And so we were benefiting speed wise from the size of our pack, not from anyone doing anything super tough on the easy sections. And so, I mean, honestly, altogether, we're not the perfect pack. There we go. We pick up another rider. We're not the perfect pack. Like perfect pack is gonna go steady on the rises. Like here, we're all, getting stretched out, going a little bonkers again. But and then doing some good. Whoever's on the front should be doing like 4.1, and then just taking turns like that, and then we're really going to be moving. But we're not, right? We're sitting in a lot here at 2.6. I'm just watching my watts on the side. Little rises and stuff. I'll be at 4, but then 3.1, 2.9, 2.9 again, 2.5. So yeah, so we're not doing a huge effort to keep this group going. I'm certainly not gonna because I've already done my max efforts. I can tell I'm in pretty deep here, and it's gonna hurt me along the way. I mean, gosh, we're only hitting halfway through the race at this point, and I was pretty wrecked. So yeah, so my plan was just sit in this group and try not to do too much work. Obviously, if they really sit, I'll go for it, and then just be ready to respond to these silly little up the hill surges, where we get all stretched out, and then slowly but surely I'll come back together again. Meanwhile, group behind us also closing. And so they are again benefiting from size of the pack. However, fortunately for us, they blow to pieces. So especially on this next lap, I think it was, and again, it's nice you can really look back and watch what's happening. But as they hit that long back forest kind of stretch, as well as those little climbs out from the river, their group comes all to pieces, which is really fortunate because they were big enough they could have caught us, but they didn't because they couldn't get that sense of working together, which it's almost impossible to do, to be honest, because there's just so many of them, um, and unless someone really takes over the chat and people really listen, then the usual happens, which is everyone sits and rolls pretty easy on the flat stuff and then goes really hard on the hills and blows the group apart. So meanwhile, up ahead of us, they must be doing a pretty incredible TTT effort to keep that small group away. Um, I didn't have anything to really push a chase. So I was thinking, like what we could do in the message, and you can get a group going just by saying, "Hey guys, we're catching ahead. Let's keep it on," or make sure if you're on the front, do 4.1, and then yourself you do some nice kind of 4.1, 4.2 efforts on the front of your group. You can often ramp up a group into a chase. However, I did not have faith that we would catch them. Um, that minute just held and it held and it held. And you can see it's like on the mini map, it's essentially the same distance for, I want to say, like 30 kilometers, 35 kilometers maybe. They held that minute gap up to us. And so I had honestly, I'd given up on them, but you'll see things do change in that final lap. Again, not by our group doing anything particularly smart, but just by the sheer size. We're just rolling along at 45 kilometers an hour because we've got the 19 of us. And fortunately, like our group was just good enough on those silly little pushes when we broke up to get back together again. Because there was a lot of points where I thought, oh crap, we're gonna lose half the group if we keep with the shenanigans. Like it's shenanigans like up this hill, um, where suddenly everyone's doing 5.5 for no really good reason. Um, I mean, there was no indication we were going to catch a group ahead of us, and there is a big group behind us. So there's really no point in going hard enough that you risk the pack. The pack is all hail the pack. Anyway, but look at ahead of us now on the mini map. The that small group ahead is starting to come back. This is kind of the first time where I really noticed that was a tangible difference in that gap to the group ahead. Um, Not that it led me to like want to jump on the front of our group for very long. The other thing you start to worry about is do single riders start to get the excitement and decide to try to jump across to the group ahead, which is another great way to split your group ahead or apart. Is don't be patient for the catch. Go off and try to make the catch yourself, and then everyone slowly tries to go with you, and then suddenly you're all riding solo. But our group is great. We don't do that. We stay together, and now they're getting really within touching distance here because there's that climb coming up, and a good size pack just hits the climb with so much pace that it carries you right into the end of the group in front of you. So I'm going to slow her down to regular speed here so we can finish out this race. Group behind is gone. They had obviously, you could watch them coming to pieces behind us. So now we've got nothing to worry about, nothing to think about but the finish of this race. I was sure there wasn't a huge amount of B riders left up ahead, but there was a chance that some number of them had still stayed with the A group. Like it was just too out of sight to know for sure. So I wasn't entirely sure which position our group was going to be fighting for. But in catching the, I don't know, three-ish maybe, couple A's, three B's ahead of us, I knew that that would mean we're fighting for some pretty high positions, top 10 kind of positions in the B race. So that's great. I mean, that's what you want to do is you want to end up in the sprint for the good stuff. Now, unfortunately, as we go up this final rise, you can see my heart rate there, 185. We're 51 kilometers in. I am an absolute mess at this point. So, did everything I needed to do to be where I needed to be, but it cost me everything. Um, it was all out. And so it's great to see we've got Paulette in here now. We've got Egowitz back. But it's going to be a big sprint because now there's 20 something of us. And I'm not feeling good about what I've got left. And look at this, we're coming apart a little bit, but I was fairly confident that we've got a little bit bigger group here, and Paulette's in the group. He's not going to let anyone roll away. Plus, there's a lot of sitting up. When there's no group threatening from behind, there's a lot of sitting up that happens. Though I do think we split off some riders. If I'm looking at the mini map, we did create a separation on that last bit. I don't remember for sure if they come back or not. I do know for sure our group comes back to that little move on the front there. So how do you finish off a good Zwift race sprint? You try to coast the wheels in the last kilometer and a half. Oh yeah, that group isn't coming back behind us. Sorry, that's interesting. I didn't realize that happened. That's good. Good for me. Um, You ride the wheels at 1.5 kilometers, and then you sneak your way close to the front, but not on the front, so that when things surge at about 800 meters, you ride the surge, and then you're ready to sprint at 150. In this case, uh, as I like look to the side with no confidence whatsoever, um, it's gonna be like, hey, can I maybe keep it with this pack to the finish? So I'm not on my own. Because dang, this carpet, I swear this carpet is so thick. Who who lays really thick carpet in the middle of a bike race? Uh, but yeah, so here's where I still you can't help it, right? You can't help going for your strategy. So I'm still like, okay, 1.5 kilometers, I'm gonna be just off the front of this group, as if like, you know, in my head, I'm in the mix on this sprint. It's yeah. But you can't turn it off, right? You can't turn off good strategy. What you can't do is make legs happen that aren't there. Uh, so anyway, surfing the pack, counting down the seconds to the sprint. At our race that was at an average pace of like 44 something kilometers an hour. Of course, Swift pushed me wide there, jerks. And knowing that it's going to surge and he's second, so usually, you know, there's this just ramping up when someone either goes too long or just gets excited. Sometime around now is usually 800 meters, and there, sure enough, Bumblebee going by us. Chris knows what he's doing. He's up second wheel there. And I'm at 185 beats per minute, and I'm done. I've got no sprint left. I'm doing 4.8 watts per kilogram there. You know, can't be sad about that after 55 kilometers of riding. But here we go. You start to see the drafts and the feathers and burritos, and I stood up for 1.2 seconds there. And then my heart rate went to 188 and I had to sit back down. Hey, I'm doing there, 6.2 watts per kilogram. Can't hate on that. But it was good for ninth, which is awesome. That's my best result so far in the Cycling Canada race series. And that's how you get close enough to be in the mix.